Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, Shakur Stevenson dominates Oscar Valdez en route to a lopsided 12-round unanimous decision win. In doing so, Shakur Stevenson is now the unified WBO and WBC super featherweight champion. This was a pretty routine win for Shakur Stevenson, in all honesty. Kind of how I expected the fight to go down. I was picking Stevenson quite confidently. Felt that the style matchup was all wrong for Oscar Valdez, Shakur taller, longer, etc. And yeah, it kind of panned out the way I expected, to be honest. But early in the fight, Oscar Valdez was guilty. Well, in round one, Oscar Valdez was guilty of following Shakur Stevenson around in straight lines, kind of covering up, seeing what Shakur had to offer. Shakur would utilise that southpaw jab, popping the jab, splitting the guard of Oscar Valdez. One thing that struck me in round one was how big Shakur Stevenson was in comparison to Oscar Valdez. And we saw that in this fight. The strength of Stevenson was very impressive at times. But yeah, round one, Shakur, both guys were kind of looking at what each other had. Valdez was kind of following Shakur around, trying to apply pressure, whereas Stevenson was just boxing. And right away you could see the openings for Shakur Stevenson. Valdez was coming forwards behind a high guard, and he was leaning his head over his front knee. So he was going to be open for Shakur's check right hook out of that southpaw stance, as well as the uppercut, etc. And that would prove to be the case as this fight played out. But round one, Shakur just comprehensively outboxed Oscar Valdez. Round two, Stevenson once again resumed his boxing. However, he was opening up a little bit more, throwing some power shots. One shot in particular that he started to throw in round two, which arguably was his key shot of this fight, was like a long looping bolo to the gut. And he started to find that shot in round two, a shot he would use throughout the fight. And he started to open up a little bit on Oscar Valdez, landing some really good shots. And, again, Valdez was following Shakur around, not doing too much. But towards the end of round two, Valdez did land some nice hard body shots, about 3 or 4 really hard body shots, which, Stevenson reacted to. He kind of insinuated to the ref that they were low blows, but they weren't. But yeah, round two, again, Shakur on top, but Valdez landed a couple of good shots. Round three was arguably Valdez's best round of the fight. Applied more pressure, upped his work rate, primarily finding shots to the body of Shakur Stevenson, forcing Shakur back, made him look a little uncomfortable on a couple of occasions, a couple of cuffing hooks to the head. Shakur, on the other hand, he was still boxing, he was still landing his own work. Round three was definitely close, but I felt that, the pressure of Valdez and the harder shots were why he deserved round three. But quite frankly, after round three, Shakur, he realised what he had in front of him, and he come to the conclusion that Valdez couldn't really do anything. And yeah, round four onwards, Shakur just completely took control of this fight, boxing great out of that southpaw stance, mixing in the check right hook out of a southpaw stance, the looping shot to the body. He was starting to find the uppercuts on Oscar Valdez, which Valdez was very susceptible to. Round five, Shakur just really opened up in round five, really let go of combinations, 3-4 punch combinations, and I liked how he always finished the combinations for the most part with that shot to the body, really kind of draining Oscar Valdez. So round five was a domination round by Shakur Stevenson. Round six, more of the same. Valdez opened up, really tried to lunge in with a big power shot. Shakur caught him with a check right hook, and Shakur span out. Valdez basically fell against the ropes, and Shakur helped him on his way down. So round six, Shakur Stevenson scored a knockdown. And at this point in the fight, in the mid-rounds, you could see Oscar Valdez's face start to mark up. He had a little cut. He was getting reddened by the shots of Shakur, the quick shots, the quick counters, the jabs, etc. And Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, you realised that Valdez really had no chance. Round 3 gave you the impression that maybe Valdez could claw his way into this fight, but, by the mid-rounds, the chances of that were gone, unless Valdez landed one big shot, which wasn't going to happen. And yeah, Shakur just decided to box up Oscar Valdez. He was mixing things up. He was going to body, he was going to head. At times he was holding his feet and firing on the inside. Did a pretty good job of controlling distance when he was boxing from range. The only complaint I would have with Shakur was that he did the Klitschko tactic of holding out his lead hand to try and stop Valdez advancing, and he was warned for that on several occasions by the referee Kenny Bayliss. But apart from that, Shakur was boxing a really, really good fight. Round 10 was a better round for Valdez. I mean, the commentary team scored it to Valdez. I'm not really sure how, to be honest. Valdez landed a couple of good body shots, a couple of cuffing overhand rights, but to me it wasn't enough to win round 10 for Valdez. Shakur's output dropped in round 10, like he was taking a round off, but I still felt he boxed the better game plan in round 10. And yeah, the last 2 rounds were again routine Shakur rounds, really making Valdez miss in the last 2 rounds, kind of playing the matador, coming back with some nice stinging counters. And yeah, I mean, it was a routine win for Shakur Stevenson, and I think this goes to show that Shakur's style is now metamorphosizing. On the come-up, he was seen as a bit of a back foot runner, boring, not great to watch, etc. But, his last 2 fights, I think Shakur's really started to mix it up. He's letting go of his hands more, throwing more combinations, holding his feet a little bit longer. He's still a boxer, he's still going to maintain range and be defensively responsible. He's never going to be Arturo Gatti, but I think he's now mixing things up, which makes it much more interesting for us fans to see. I mean, when he goes through the gears and lands a 4-5 punch combination, it's good to watch. The speed, the accuracy, etc. And, yeah, I appreciate that Shakur is trying to implement that into his game. It makes his fights a lot more watchable. And yeah, he bossed this fight from start to finish. Oscar Valdez was very disappointing. Mind you, I can't really say he was disappointing because I wasn't expecting anything really from Valdez, but he was flat. Apart from like round 3 and a bit of round 2, I mean, he was really flat. Really, really flat. It is what it is. Why that is, who knows? But I mean, Stevenson he did what he needed to do here, and he is now the unified super featherweight champion. And how old is Shakur Stevenson now? 24 years old. He's coming off 2 good wins over two champions in Jamel Herring and Oscar Valdez. Where does he go from here? I mean, when you look at the super featherweight division, it's not really all that interesting. There's no names there that really stand out to me that would give Shakur a decent fight. Of course, Kenichi Ogawa, I believe he's the IBF champion. He's signed over to DAZN. They could make that fight, but apart from that, there's no real interesting fights. And even Ogawa, I think Shakur would have quite an easy time with him, quite frankly. Ogawa does have power, and he is big for the weight, but in terms of skill for skill, Shakur should win that fight relatively comfortably. So I wonder whether Shakur moves up to lightweight in the near future, because he's a big dude. I mean, he looked big in there against Oscar Valdez. I don't think he'd be undersized at lightweight, so maybe lightweight is the next step for Shakur Stevenson. Who knows? But if he could get undisputed, try and do it. But given the quality of the super featherweight division, I mean, there's not too much there. Robson Conceição would be a good fight for Shakur Stevenson, but I mean, there's not too much there for Shakur, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll see where he goes next. What about you guys? What did you think of Shakur's performance? And where do you want to see him go next? And same for Oscar Valdez. Where does he go from here? Share your thoughts below. Peace.